this is a super good idea, man. It makes things a lot easier.
It really does, instead of having to sit down and write notes all the time. Alright, start a little bit by talking about products and services. You guys have 4 ranges of products: Eurotile, the Signature, the Paradox Safco, construction application materials, and the tabletop introduced in the market. Could you tell us the Eurotile quality apart from its competitors? Like what is it that distinguishes Midug from the rest of the ceramics or tile producers in Vietnam?
Midug specializes primarily in service at this very moment, so that's what we're trying to showcase, and that's how we're going to try to set ourselves apart. We've always been #1 in service and having better return policies than everyone else, and having better design services. And what better design services mean is that we have an active team of graphic designers that will actually take whatever tile that you like and then insert that into like a 3D design program. And then you actually get to visualize what you're looking at and how your actual space would look like after the tile installation.
And that's something that nobody else does.
No one else does it, and if they do, they're not going to do it better than us. Okay. So primarily, right now our quality it's from the mid-range to high. It's not necessarily the best quality, and we're not necessarily the best price, but in terms of service, that's where we're going to try to excel.
Okay. Can you tell us a little bit about the production process in terms of the selection of the materials, in terms of going green, in terms of sourcing your suppliers, the sort of relationships that you guys have?
I don't know too much about, but I can kind of give you a rundown. In terms of sourcing our product, we source some of our clay from northern Vietnam. So we actually purchase clay by the ton, and then we ship it down all the way to Saigon. And then from Saigon, Vũng Tàu, from there it actually gets processed.
Okay.
So, and then there's other things that we need to actually import. So there's actually other chemicals like binders and whatnot. I'm not fully aware of that. So you have the clay, you have the binders, and the very last ingredient are the glazes. And those are like the shells or the layers on the outside of the actual tiles itself. In terms of relationships, we have pretty good relationships with them, except for what's been happening lately is that unfortunately we haven't been able to pay our suppliers, and they haven't been servicing it as well as we really want them. And that's an effect of the economy right now.
So cash is the main problem at the moment in terms of relationships with your stakeholders.
Yeah, sure.
All right. You mentioned that you are not necessarily the best quality product in the market and not necessarily the best price. Tell us a little bit more about your direct competition and if you go after the same target market.
So our direct competition, what it's foreseen in the actual marketplace, we like to think that we don't have any competitors. And in terms of price, I think we're actually the most expensive within the ceramic tile industry in Vietnam. So for the people who we're trying to target the upper class and the middle class. And the reason why we're trying to do that is because we're trying to set ourselves apart from not having normal mediocre tile. We're trying to set ourselves apart in terms of trying to give people the most high-end experience that we can offer.
Right. And by high-end, you mean just a total quality as opposed to the actual quality of the ceramics?
Okay.
Like the best designs and...
almost like a holistic quality.
Right.
So the best buying experience, the best design experience, the best service. If there's any breakage, then we'll go ahead and try to rectify that for them. Try to offer the best selection that we can, which means color ranges or sizes.
Best designs and obviously best materials.
Yeah,
in order to avoid.
Some people in the company have actually thought that we actually overdevelop our products. to the point where it's too out of reach for some people. And that could be true.
Which is what you want, because that's your strategy.
That's our strategy, but in the end, if it's effective or not, I don't know.
Okay, well, by better materials, I simply meant sometimes when you work with local construction companies, they will install the tiles, but then they won't use the right glue or whatever, and then the tiles will pop off or they'll break or they'll absorb the humidity.
That's one tricky area within Vietnam. So Vietnam just lacks the education of actually knowing how to install tile properly.
Right.
And that actually just goes with the culture. So for instance, a common problem in Vietnam is that they actually use cement
Right.
to adhere the tile to the ground. In reality, in Western countries, we actually use something called thin sand, which is an actual adhesive, right? And there's ways of applying it that Vietnamese people traditionally do not do.
And you guys produce that as well?
We actually do produce it. That specific line of adhesives isn't necessarily doing that well. We're not selling that much of that product, from my understanding.
Okay. Now, the concept of the signature tile, the hand painted art, is not new to Vietnam. Apparently, Bat Trang Ceramics introduced this concept back in the 14th century. And what sets My Duc apart is more of the design, but it's not necessarily a new concept. What do you think of that statement? Do you think that you guys are being innovative from a design standpoint, or you guys are just being innovative by creating new products and making new things available on the market?
I think there's truth to both. We're not necessarily the first people to be painting on ceramic tile. That's definitely a true statement. But what we're trying to do and what sets us apart is that we're trying to have contemporary artwork and contemporary designs on tile. So Bat Trang, they don't necessarily make artwork on ceramic tile. They make artwork on vases or any type of ceramic arts.
Okay.
Right. So Bat Trang, what they specialize in is traditional Vietnamese artwork. And that means that the colors that they use are very limited. It's white, cobalt blue, and grays. And what the attempt for signature tile is to do is we're trying to incorporate modern and contemporary art to just ceramic. And sometimes there's motifs of like Vietnamese tradition, and sometimes there isn't. And the person that actually heads up that department is a creative girl. She's a creative woman, and she's the manager. She's the creative director. And she kind of directs and leads the signature tile painters to do whatever they need to do and produce new products or things made to order too.
Very cool. I also like the fact that the company's been very innovative in terms of teaming up with furniture manufacturers to create customized ceramic tabletops.
Yeah, and that's your last point. That was tabletop. That's called signature. It's called signature tile furniture, and we're trying to rename it to style furniture. And it's like a conjunctive word of signature and tile to produce as style furniture.
Very cool. Has the company ever collected any surveys or feedback from existing customers on the service levels and product quality?
Yes.
And what were the responses for the most part?
Generally, people were very pleased with our service, with our level of service. That was one good feature about the surveys that we've taken. We actually take surveys a year round, and they're market research surveys to find out what and who are people using right now for their ceramic tiles in their house and whatnot.
Good. We're going to talk a little bit about first the structure of the company, and then we're going to go into the culture of the company. The structure of the company